The massive warship of the Xilirian Empire floated silently in the shadow of a red nebula. Its armor was cracked and burning, its engines half dead and its crew restless. Inside the main chamber, soldiers whispered about their wounded ruler. The Empress Veyara, she was proud, powerful, and feared across 100 worlds, yet now, her life was tied to a broken armor that no alien dared to touch. On the far edge of the nebula, a human rescue pod drifted toward the wreck. Inside it, a lone engineer named Aaron Cross was unconscious, his suit cracked, his oxygen low. He had been part of a failed mission, an attempt to save refugees during the last human-Xilirian conflict. But fate had other plans. When Xilirian patrols found his pod, they dragged him to their ship. Most wanted to throw him into space, but the Empress gave a quiet order. "Bring him to me alive," she said, her voice low but commanding. The soldiers obeyed, confused but loyal. Aaron woke up in a dimly lit chamber filled with strange glowing vines of energy. He saw her sitting on a throne of metal and light. Her golden armor fused with her skin. One side of her body shimmered with sparks, leaking silver blood that hissed when it touched the floor. She looked at him not with hate but with cold curiosity. "You are a human engineer," she said, her voice smooth and dangerous. Aaron nodded slowly, his throat dry. "Yes. I repair systems, engines, ships," he replied carefully. Her piercing violet eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps you can repair me." He didn't understand at first. But when two guards lifted her cloak, he saw the armor pulsing like a living thing. It was breathing, reacting, shifting with her heartbeat. Yet parts of it were cracked open, wires like veins exposed to air. "Your armor. It's alive," Aaron whispered. Her lips curved slightly. "It is part of me," she said. "And it is dying." The alien medics had tried to fix it, but every touch caused the armor to lash out like a wild beast. They believed only a mind outside the Xilirian link, someone unpredictable, someone human, could repair it without triggering its defense instincts. Veyara studied him again, then said softly, "You will fix it, or you will die trying." Aaron's heart pounded. He looked at the strange tools, the flickering lights. The Empress's calm but fierce face, he knew he had no choice, so he took a deep breath and approached her throne. The guards watched him with disgust and fear. He placed his trembling hand on the damaged armor. A shock of energy ran through his fingers. It felt warm, alive, like touching skin instead of metal. The Empress winced but didn't pull away. "Careful," she whispered quietly. "That part's sensitive." Her voice was soft, almost human, and it startled him more than the electricity. Aaron nodded and adjusted his grip. He could feel the armor's rhythm like a pulse. It responded to his focus. Slowly, carefully, he began reconnecting energy veins. Aligning the fractured plates, minutes turned into hours, and silence filled the chamber. Every breath, every sound felt magnified. The air was heavy with tension, but something else lingered too. Trust? Fragile but real. When Aaron finally stepped back, his hands were shaking. The Empress opened her eyes, her breathing steady. The armor's color shifted from dull gray to radiant gold, healing before their eyes. "It's stabilizing," he said softly. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You are not like the others," she murmured. "You see it as life, not weapon," Aaron smiled weakly. "Because it feels alive." For a moment the Empress said nothing, then turned her gaze to the stars outside the window. "Perhaps that is why your kind is both feared and envied," she said. But the silence didn't last outside the chamber. Whispers spread among the crew. A human touching their Empress's sacred armor was an insult to their empire. Some wanted him executed immediately. Others believed it was destiny. The Empress choosing an alien to heal what no one else could. When Aaron was escorted to his holding quarters, he couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying her whisper. The tone of her voice, the warmth beneath the armor. He wasn't sure what was more dangerous, the living armor, or the woman inside it. For the first time in his life, a human engineer had touched something forbidden, and somewhere in the galaxy, destiny began to shift far above. The nebula glowed like fire, and in that crimson light, the Empress looked down at her repaired armor and whispered again. "Delicate, yet strong," she said to herself. A hint of a smile touched her lips, and deep within the armor, her pulse and his energy signature beat in perfect rhythm. The forbidden encounter had begun, and neither human nor alien would ever be the same again. The next morning, Aaron woke inside a small metallic room with no windows. He was given water, food, and a warning. Do not touch anything without permission. Two Zilirian guards stood outside the door, their armor black and gleaming, their eyes glowing faint blue. He could feel their hatred every time they looked at him. To them, he was not a guest, not even a prisoner. He was a contaminant, a fragile human who had no right to stand before their Empress. But to Empress Veyara, things were different now. Her armor no longer screamed in pain. The energy veins pulsed with a soft light again. For the first time in months, she could move her arm without agony. She remembered the human's steady hands, his patience, the warmth in his eyes. There was something unusual about him, something not mechanical, not programmed, something alive. Bring the human, she ordered quietly. The guards obeyed, though their faces twisted with disgust. Aaron entered the throne chamber once more. He bowed awkwardly, unsure of what was appropriate. The Empress rose slowly from her seat, her armor glowing like liquid gold. You repaired what my finest healers could not, she said, and yet, it remains unstable. She gestured toward the glowing armor plates. Small fractures still flickered with unstable energy. It heals itself now, Aaron said softly. But the system feels... Aware, Veyara's eyes narrowed slightly. The armor is alive, she admitted. It is born from my essence, Aaron blinked, confused. You mean... Yes, she interrupted gently. This armor is part of my DNA, my spirit. She paused, watching his expression. It is not a tool. It is an extension of me. Aaron stepped closer, examining the shifting lines of light along her chest plate. Each pulse matched her heartbeat. The armor's surface rippled as if breathing. He reached out a hand but stopped halfway. Unsure if it was allowed, Veyara tilted her head slightly. Amused. Do it, she said. I can feel your hesitation. As his fingers brushed the armor, a wave of warmth surged through both of them. The armor responded immediately, like it recognized him. Its golden glow intensified. Humming softly like a heartbeat under glass, Veyara's breath caught. No alien had ever touched it without being burned. Yet this human's touch calmed it, Aaron whispered. It knows me. The Empress's voice lowered, serious now. No, human. It remembers you. A strange silence filled the air. Veyara turned toward her scholars and ordered them to scan the readings. The results were impossible. The armor's neural patterns had synchronized with Aaron's energy signature. It had formed a bond, an echo of his mind embedded in its network. Such a thing was forbidden in Zilirian law. To merge minds with an alien was considered corruption. But the Empress didn't stop it. She wanted to know why. From that moment, Aaron was allowed to work freely. Every day he repaired new sections. Every day the armor adapted to him. It changed color slightly when he was near, its golden light warming to a human tone. And sometimes Veyara would catch herself watching him too long. The way he smiled while concentrating, the way he spoke softly to the armor like it was a living creature. Something in her heart, something long buried under duty, began to stir. But not everyone aboard the ship shared her growing curiosity. Commander Rith, her most loyal guard, watched the scene with silent fury. He believed the human was poisoning their Empress. Late one night, he met secretly with other officers. The Empress is weakening, he hissed. That human is infecting her with emotion. They agreed something had to be done. A plan formed in the dark. They would sabotage the armor while the human worked. When the system failed, he would die, and the blame would vanish with him. The next day, Aaron walked back into the chamber unaware of the danger. He smiled faintly at the Empress. Good morning, he said nervously. Her eyes softened. Begin, she replied. As he opened the armor's inner circuits, something felt wrong. The energy pulse was irregular, like a heartbeat under stress. He frowned, checking the readings. But before he could react, a violent surge exploded from the core. A flash of white light filled the room. He was thrown backward, his chest seared with burning pain. Guards shouted, alarms screamed, the armor roared like a living beast. Trying to protect its host, the Empress fell to one knee, her armor glowing red-hot. Stop, she commanded. Aaron crawled forward despite the pain. Reaching out, his hand brushed the armor again, and instantly the light dimmed. The energy stabilized, Veyara gasped, her breath returning. She looked down at the human bleeding on the floor. He had saved her, again when the chaos ended. She stood silently above him. Her hand hovered over his wound. You risked your life, she said quietly. Aaron coughed weakly. Couldn't let you. Blow up, he said with a half-smile. For a moment her lips curved. Then she whispered something no one expected. You bleed for an enemy. The guards fell silent. In her voice was not anger, but something close to sorrow. The living armor shimmered faintly around them. Its glow mixed human warmth with alien fire, and deep within its core the bond between them grew stronger. That night, when everyone slept, the Empress stood alone before the stars. Her reflection glowed in the glass. The armor pulsed like a second heart, whispering faint human echoes. She touched her chest and murmured, "Delicate indeed." The stars beyond the nebula shimmered like silent witnesses, and somewhere far in the dark, fate began to turn again. The ship drifted quietly through deep space, its wounded engines humming low beneath the metal decks. Days passed since the explosion, and Aaron's name spread through the Zilirian fleet like wildfire. Some called him a lucky insect. Others whispered he was a sorcerer. Only the Empress knew the truth. Her armor had accepted the human, and that changed everything. But peace never lasts long inside a warship filled with pride and secrets. Commander Reith watched from the shadows, his anger burning like acid. He saw how the Empress allowed the human to stand beside her throne. He saw how she spoke softer now, how her armor pulsed warmer whenever Aaron was near. To Reith, this was betrayal, a poison infecting their empire's heart. He made a vow under his breath. "If the armor won't reject the human, I will make it." That night, while the Empress slept in her private chamber, Reith and 2 soldiers entered the engineering core. They carried a small crystal device glowing faint red, an energy disruptor tuned to destroy neural links. They connected it to the armor's remote interface. "Tomorrow," Reith whispered, "the human's touch will turn the armor against them both." The next morning, Aaron walked into the chamber unaware. He greeted Vayara with his usual calm smile. She nodded slightly, though her eyes looked distant, thoughtful. He noticed faint tension in the air but ignored it. "Let's finish the energy core alignment today," he said. Vayara simply replied, "Proceed." As Aaron worked, he felt strange pulses beneath the armor, irregular, cold, like a heartbeat gone wrong. He frowned and checked his readings, but the data made no sense. The armor was fighting him. "Empress, something's off," he said quickly. "The resonance is shifting by itself." Before she could answer, the armor convulsed violently. Bolts of blue energy exploded from its plates, throwing Aaron backward. The walls cracked. Alarms screamed through the ship. "Contain the surge!" Vayara shouted, her voice echoing with command. But the armor didn't listen. It roared like a living creature in pain. Vayara fell to her knees as the energy flared across her body. Aaron pushed himself up, smoke rising from his burned arm. He ran forward without thinking, his instincts screaming, "Let me help you," he yelled. He reached the armor's chest core and slammed his hand onto it. The system reacted instantly, recognizing his touch again. The wild energy began to calm, the light flickering from red to gold. Their link reignited like a spark in a storm. Vayara gasped as her heartbeat synced with his pulse. Through the bond, she felt his pain, his fear, and his determination, and in return he felt her strength. Her centuries of loneliness together, they stabilized the living armor once more. When silence returned, the soldiers stared in shock. The chamber smelled of ozone and burnt metal. Aaron collapsed, his body trembling. The Empress knelt beside him, her voice trembling for the first time. "You could have died," she whispered. Aaron smiled weakly. "I'm starting to get used to that." Reith stepped forward, pretending concern. "My Empress, he must have done this," he growled. "No alien energy behaves this way unless someone triggered it." Vayara's eyes flashed like fire. "Enough," she said coldly. "I felt his heart through the link. He saved me again." Reith bowed, but his jaw tightened with hatred. He had failed, but not for long. That night, Aaron lay in the med bay recovering. The lights dimmed to a soft blue. He heard footsteps approach. Vayara, dressed not in armor but in simple robes of silver cloth. For the first time she looked less like a ruler and more like a woman. She stood beside his bed silently for a moment before speaking. "Your species, you risk everything for reasons I cannot understand." Aaron smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what makes us human." She looked away, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps," she whispered. "Or perhaps it is what makes you dangerous." As she turned to leave, the armor's faint glow shimmered around her wrist. It pulsed softly in rhythm with the human's heartbeat from across the room. She noticed it and touched it gently, whispering to herself, bound by accident. Or by fate. Meanwhile, deep within the ship's lower decks, Reith prepared his next move. He had stolen the backup data logs from the armor and found something horrifying. The system recorded shared memories, human and alien merging thought fragments. If the Council learned this, they would call the Empress corrupted, unfit to rule. Rith's lips curled into a cold smile. He would not only destroy the human, he would expose her, and once the Empress fell, the Empire would be pure again, far above. The ship's engines roared back to life. Feyara stood before the stars, lost in quiet thought. The armor on her chest glowed softly, alive, calm, and connected. She could still feel the human's heartbeat echoing faintly within it. For the first time in centuries, the Empress of 1,000 worlds felt something she had forgotten long ago. Trust. And she knew that trust would soon be tested. The storm had only begun, and the next strike would come not from the outside, but from within her own fleet. The ship moved through the silent dark. Far from any known star inside the Empress's chamber, the golden light of her armor pulsed faintly like a living heartbeat. Aaron stood beside her, scanning the armor's energy map projected in the air. He noticed something strange, a pattern hidden deep inside the armor's design, a signal repeating like a whisper. He frowned and leaned closer. This isn't just power flow, he murmured. It looks like a message. Feyara turned her sharp eyes toward him, curious. A message? From whom? Aaron shook his head slowly. Not from anyone, from itself. The Empress stepped closer, her long cloak brushing the floor. The armor speaks? She asked quietly. Aaron smiled faintly. Maybe not in words, but yes. It's trying to communicate. He placed his palm on her chest plate again, and the golden veins of light rippled outward. The pulse quickened, matching his heartbeat. The Empress shivered slightly as the armor responded to his touch. This shouldn't be possible, she whispered. Aaron looked at her and said softly, I think the armor wants me to find something. Together, they studied the energy streams until they found the origin. A core chamber sealed deep within the armor's living structure. It wasn't just mechanical, it was biological, pulsing with soft light like a heart made of starlight. To reach it, Aaron would have to connect his mind directly to the armor's neural matrix. The Empress hesitated, her tone sharp. No Zilirian has ever linked to another being without losing themselves. Aaron looked back at her calmly. Maybe that's why you need a human. Her jaw tightened, torn between logic and instinct. Finally, she nodded once. If you do this, you could die, she said quietly. He gave a half smile. You've said that 3 times already. A faint, rare smile touched her lips before vanishing again. Then let us begin, she said. Aaron placed the neural band across his temples. The armor's lights flared, filling the room with golden fire as the link engaged. His mind was pulled into a storm of light. He saw flashes, memories not his own, 1,000 battlefields, stars burning, fleets surrendering, and through it all, he saw her, Feyara, fighting alone at the center of chaos, her armor glowing like the heart of a dying sun, her face cold but her eyes lonely. Then he saw something deeper, her childhood on Zelira, a young girl watching her mother die in the same armor. He felt her grief, her fear of failure, her vow never to show weakness again. The armor wasn't just alive, it was her guardian, her prison and her inheritance. Suddenly, another vision struck him, his own memories bleeding through. Earth's broken cities, smoke and laughter, humanity's endless struggle to survive. The 2 memories twisted together, alien and human, warrior and engineer. Their thoughts overlapped until there was no border. He could feel her heart and she could feel his. A warmth spread through both of them like fire and electricity mixed together. Then, silence. He opened his eyes slowly. Gasping for air, Feyara stood before him, her armor blazing like sunrise. Her face pale, her expression shaken, she whispered. You saw my past, Aaron nodded weakly. And you saw mine. The room was still, filled only with the faint hum of the armor. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. Your people, your world. You fight even when hope is gone. Aaron smiled faintly. And you rule even when your heart is breaking. Her eyes softened. You understand me, she said almost to herself, he whispered. Maybe I always did, but their bond came with a cost. The neural link had fused deeper than expected. Part of her consciousness now echoed in him, and part of his human mind lingered inside the armor. The connection was permanent, and both of them could feel it whenever he closed his eyes. He could sense her heartbeat whenever she breathed. She could hear his thoughts whispering at the edge of her mind. Later, as they stood by the viewing window, the stars stretched endlessly before them. Aaron said quietly, "That core we found, it wasn't just power. It was your soul." Vayara turned to him, her voice almost a whisper. "And now you carry part of it." He met her gaze. "Then we'll protect it together." Far away, deep within the armor, the hidden core pulsed brighter than ever. The bond had awakened something ancient and powerful. A new life, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien spirit. And though neither spoke of it, both knew one truth. This link would either save the galaxy or destroy it. In the silence of the chamber, the Empress whispered, "You saw too much, human. Yet I do not hate you." Aaron smiled softly. "Then maybe there's hope for both of us." Her armor glowed faintly as she turned away, hiding her face from him for the first time in centuries. The Empress of the Xilirians felt her heart beating faster, not from power, but from something far more dangerous, something delicate, something human. The great Xilirian warship floated in quiet orbit above a dying moon, its hull glowing faint gold beneath the starlight. Inside, the air felt different, tense, heavy, filled with silent rumors. Word had spread across the ship's corridors, whispers carried by frightened soldiers. They said the Empress had bonded with a human, that her armor pulsed with alien and human life together. To most Xilirians it was unthinkable. To Commander Rith it was blasphemy. He stood before the High Council's communication chamber, his silver cloak brushing the cold floor. Behind him, a dozen officers waited, loyal to his cause. He activated the crystal transmitter, projecting the image of the Empress before the council. "My lords," Rith began, his voice calm but sharp. "The Empress has been compromised," murmurs erupted across the glowing screens. He continued, "The human engineer, Aaron Cross, has connected his mind to her sacred armor. The proof lies in the neural logs. See for yourself." The chamber flickered as the data played. Holograms of energy readings, patterns identical between human and Empress. The council watched in disbelief. "This is forbidden," one elder hissed. "A merging of minds violates our deepest laws," another whispered. "If true, she cannot lead the Empire." Rith lowered his head. Pretending grief, "I serve her still," he lied. "But I beg you to act before it's too late." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship, Aaron stood beside the Empress in the core chamber. He didn't yet know of Rith's betrayal. The armor's hum surrounded them, golden light reflecting in both their eyes. "We did it," he said quietly. "The armor's stable, the power flow perfect." Vayara nodded but didn't smile, her thoughts distant. "Perfection invites jealousy," she said softly. "And jealousy invites war." Suddenly, the alarm screamed through the ship. Red light flashed, and the floor trembled as security fields activated. Aaron turned, startled. "What's happening?" The Empress's face hardened. "They've found out," she said outside the chamber. Armed guards flooded the corridors. Weapons glowing blue at their front stood Rith, his eyes cold and triumphant. He shouted through the comms, "By order of the High Council, you are under arrest for biological corruption and treason." Vayara's expression didn't change, but her voice cut like a blade. "Rith, you dare accuse me?" Rith stepped forward, his soldiers raising their rifles. "You brought a human into our sacred circle, merged your mind with him, polluted your bloodline with alien thought," he sneered. "You are no longer fit to rule." Aaron moved beside her, instinctively protective. "She saved your empire," he said sharply. "Without her, this ship would be dust." Rith's gaze turned toward him. "And you, creature of chaos, you infected her." With a gesture, he ordered his soldiers to fire. Energy bolts ripped through the air. Aaron grabbed the Empress's arm, pulling her behind the console. The chamber exploded in sparks and light. Vayara raised her hand, her armor flaring to life, golden energy forming a barrier that melted the incoming blasts. The floor shook, the air crackled, her voice thundered like a storm. "You would raise your weapons against your Empress?" She roared. The soldiers hesitated, but Rith did not. "An Empress no more!" He shouted and fired again. The blast struck the wall near Aaron, throwing him across the room. Pain burned through his side, but he forced himself up. Vayara turned toward him, eyes wide. The armor responded to her panic. Its energy flared brighter. Wrapping her like living fire, she extended her hand and unleashed a shockwave of power. Rith and his men were thrown against the walls. Weapons shattering, smoke filled the chamber. The sound of alarms fading into static. When it cleared, only silence remained. The Empress stood tall in the center of the destruction, her armor glowing fiercely. Aaron staggered toward her, his breathing shallow. She looked at him with a mix of anger, sorrow, and relief. "You should not have stood in front of me," she said softly. He smiled weakly. "It's kind of a habit now." Her lips trembled slightly, almost a smile. Then her expression turned distant again, her gaze shifting to the stars outside the shattered window. "The council will come," she whispered. "They will send fleets." "They will not understand," Aaron nodded slowly. "Then we'll make them understand." She turned toward him. "They will see only corruption, not truth." He met her eyes. "Then we'll show them what truth looks like." Moments later, loyal officers rushed in, shocked by the wreckage. One fell to his knees, crying, "My Empress! The council has declared you rogue. They've ordered your capture." Thayara stood silent for a moment, then said calmly, "Prepare the ship for jump. We will not run, but we will not kneel either." Aaron stepped beside her, his hand brushing her arm. She didn't pull away this time. Through the faint hum of the armor, he could feel her pulse sync with his again, steady, determined, alive outside. In the cold darkness of space, the Zilirian Empire began to fracture. Whispers spread from ship to ship. Some called her traitor, others called her savior. But every sensor across the fleet recorded the same thing. The Empress's armor no longer glowed gold. It shimmered with a new color, a blend of alien fire and human warmth, something unseen in any history before. And in the quiet of her mind, Thayara heard his voice echo faintly. "We'll survive this," she whispered back into the empty air. "Yes." Together, the Zilirian flagship floated in a storm of fire and light, its shields flickering under the assault of rebel cruisers. From orbit, it looked like a dying sun surrounded by vultures. Inside, the Empress stood tall in the command hall, her armor alive and glowing brighter than ever. Each pulse of its golden light echoed like a heartbeat through the metal floors. Through every wire and every living soul aboard the ship, Aaron stood beside her, his uniform scorched, his eyes filled with exhaustion and defiance. The ship trembled as explosions rolled across the hull. He steadied himself on the console, shouting, "Shields at 30%. They'll break through in minutes." Thayara's voice was calm but cold. "Then we will fight until the last breath." The officers around them looked torn, some loyal, some afraid. One young soldier spoke, trembling. "My Empress, the Council's fleet outnumbers us 10-1. They say your mind has been corrupted by the human." Thayara turned to him slowly, her eyes sharp. "Then let them witness what corruption can do." She stepped forward, raising her hand, and the armor's plates unfolded like wings of molten light. For a moment, the entire room glowed gold, and every screen flickered with her energy signature. Aaron felt a surge of power through their bond. He could feel her rage, her sorrow, and her courage. It burned like fire inside his chest. He whispered softly, "You can't take them all alone." She looked at him, her voice softer now. "No, not alone." Aaron reached for the armor's interface, his hand trembling as he connected his neural band. "Wait," she said quietly. "If you link again, you may lose yourself completely." He smiled faintly. "Then we'll share one mind instead of two." The Empress hesitated for a heartbeat, then placed her hand over his. The link activated, a beam of golden and blue light joining them together. The ship's power grid screamed as their consciousnesses merged. Suddenly, Aaron wasn't just seeing through his eyes. He saw the battlefield through hers, thousands of ships, the burning nebula, the cold precision of command. He felt her pain, her fury, her pride, and she felt his humanity, his warmth, his stubborn hope. Their minds intertwined until their thoughts were no longer separate voices but a single unified pulse. From the outside, her armor blazed like a newborn star. The officers shielded their eyes, whispering in awe. "What is happening?" one muttered. Another whispered, "She's fusing with him." Then the armor changed. Its color deepened to a radiant fusion of gold and silver, human and alien energy flowing in harmony. The ship's dead systems reawakened, lights bursting to life across the control panels. The engines roared with impossible strength. Aaron's voice echoed through the comms, calm, strong, half human and half Silurian. "This is not the end," he said. "This is evolution." Outside, the flagship turned toward the rebel fleet. Thayara's and Aaron's shared mind directed every cannon, every drone, every piece of living metal. When the enemy fired, the armor's light flared outward like a shield, bending the energy away. When they struck back, the beam tore through 3 cruisers at once. It wasn't just technology anymore, it was instinct, alive, fighting for survival. The rebels tried to retreat, but the flagship moved faster than ever. It danced between explosions. Guided by human improvisation and alien precision, Vayara's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel. "I am not corrupted," she declared, her tone calm yet filled with power. "I am reborn." Her words rippled through the minds of every Zilirian soldier. Even those who had turned against her hesitated, feeling something stir deep within their armor, something new, but power always demands a price. Inside the fusion, Aaron felt his mind burning, the connection growing too deep. His memories blurred, his body weakening. He heard her voice echoing through the light. "You're fading," she whispered. He answered softly, "If I fade, at least it's inside something worth saving." She reached for him through the neural bond, her hand glowing with light. "No," she said fiercely. "You are not my sacrifice, you are my equal." And then something incredible happened. The armor responded not to her command but to their emotion. It reshaped itself, creating a shared core between them. For the first time in history, a Zilirian Empress and a human became one consciousness guiding a single living weapon. The fusion stabilized. The ship's systems pulsed brighter than the stars outside. The rebel fleet broke apart under the unstoppable force. Fleeing into the black, silence returned, broken only by the hum of the living armor. When the battle ended, the Empress fell to her knees. Breathing hard, the light around her dimmed, and the armor slowly receded. Aaron's voice came faintly through the link. "We did it," he whispered. She placed her hand over her heart. "We did," she replied softly. But when she looked around, he wasn't beside her anymore. His body lay still near the console. Eyes closed, peaceful. The neural band flickered weakly. Her heart clenched, the bond still faintly alive. "You're not gone," she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. "I can still feel you." And deep inside the armor's new core, a soft human heartbeat echoed in rhythm with her own. He wasn't gone. He had become part of her, part of the armor, part of the living fusion that now connected two civilizations. Vayara stood slowly, facing the stars beyond the shattered window. Her voice was steady, filled with quiet strength. "They called it corruption," she said softly. "But it was never that." She touched the armor's chest plate and smiled faintly. "It was love." The galaxy burned quietly. Ruined fleets drifted through the emptiness, silent monuments to pride and fear. Among the wreckage, one ship still moved. The Zilirian flagship, its hull gleaming with new light. Neither gold nor silver, but something between. Something alive. The war had ended. But peace had not yet begun. Inside the ship's grand chamber, Empress Vayara stood before the wide viewing window, staring at the horizon of stars. Her armor pulsed gently, carrying the echo of another heartbeat within it. Aaron's presence was still there, faint, quiet but constant. Whenever she closed her eyes, she could hear his voice whispering softly through the armor's hum. "Easy there, Vay," he'd say, teasing her the way no one else ever dared. And she would smile alone in the silence. The Council's fleets had retreated, unable to destroy what they no longer understood. The report spread across the stars like fire. "The Empress has merged with a human. Her ship is alive, the armor itself breathes." Some called her divine, others called her monster. But all of them feared what she had become. She walked slowly through the ship's main corridor. The crew bowed their heads as she passed, not out of fear anymore, but respect. They had seen her fight for them, bleed for them, and even defy her own gods for them. For the first time in their history, their leader had chosen compassion over conquest. And though they didn't understand it, they could feel its power. When she entered the core chamber, the golden light greeted her like an old friend. The heart of the ship pulsed in slow rhythm, warm and steady. She placed her hand on the glowing surface, whispering, "You're quiet today." A faint vibration answered her, a pulse of recognition. She smiled gently. "Still stubborn, aren't you?" Her voice softened. "Do you see it, Aaron? The galaxy is afraid." His voice came faintly through the armor and echoed deep within her mind. "They always fear what they don't understand." She closed her eyes, whispering, "Then we'll teach them." Far beyond the flagship, the Zilirian Council broadcasted a message to all sectors. They declared her exile. They warned that her existence was an abomination, a fusion that broke every sacred code. But their soldiers no longer obeyed. Entire fleets drifted silently toward her signal. drawn by something stronger than law. They came not as conquerors but as witnesses. In a distant corner of the galaxy, humans on the Edge colonies also received the transmission. They too had heard of the alien Empress who spared a human and changed the stars. At first, they didn't believe it, but soon strange transmissions began to echo through deep space. Songs of unity, signals of life from beyond known frequencies. The galaxy was whispering her name one night. Vayara stood on the observation deck, her reflection shining in the glass. The stars glimmered like frozen fire around her, and then, from deep within the armor, Aaron's voice spoke again, stronger this time. "You feel that, don't you?" She nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "They're coming." He laughed softly in her mind. "Not for war this time." "No," she said, smiling faintly for something new. Moments later, alarms chimed softly, not in warning but in announcement. The radar filled with hundreds of approaching ships, human and Zilirian both, flying side by side. No weapons active, no battle formation, just a slow, united approach. Vayara felt her throat tighten, her heart heavy and light all at once. "This is your doing," she whispered. Aaron's voice smiled through her mind. "Our doing?" The ships opened a wide channel. A human admiral's voice came through, calm but reverent. "Empress Vayara, humanity owes you a debt. You saved one of ours, and in doing so, you saved something greater, hope." Then a Zilirian captain's voice followed, trembling with emotion. "My Empress, forgive our blindness. We see now you are not corrupted. You are the bridge." For the first time in her long life, Vayara felt tears touch her eyes. They glimmered like starlight on her cheeks. She whispered into the comms, her voice steady and soft. "Then let this be the first day of peace." The fleets drifted together, human and alien ships aligning side by side. Across the galaxy, people watched the broadcast in silence. They saw an Empress standing before a window of stars, her armor glowing with two hearts beating as one, and they saw the dawn of a new era, a union born not from power, but from understanding. As the ships formed a circle around her flagship, a faint whisper echoed through the neural core, Aaron's voice soft and fading. "You did it." She closed her eyes, whispering back, "No, we did it." The armor shimmered one last time, gold and silver merging into white light that illuminated the entire chamber. When the glow faded, she stood silent for a moment. Her hand rested over her chest where his presence still pulsed quietly. "Delicate things," she whispered, smiling faintly, "can be the strongest of all outside." The galaxy watched, and for the first time in centuries, the universe was not at war, it was listening. To a whisper that began with a single human and an Empress who dared to feel.